At the beginning of fall, I realized I don't have much colorful clothing in my wardrobe. That's why in this video I will be making a warm yellow 1950s skirt. I used a pattern from a magazine, which name you can find in description. And now, let's go back in time to when I actually began working on this project. So, because I'm working with a pattern from a magazine, I need to transfer the lines for my pattern from this piece of paper to a different piece of paper and trace it. It looks difficult because there's a lot of lines, but it's not actually this bad. From what I know, the pattern for my skirt is in black lines, so I think this is the front panel or the back panel. So I need to transfer it, and I don't have what's it called? The little wheel that you can just run through it and it will transfer it for you. The tracing wheel, I think it's called. So I think that my mother actually told me to do is you can just take a needle. You need to make sure that the pattern is secure to the paper so it doesn't move, and you can just make little not holes, just, well, maybe I'll just show you what I mean. You just do that in the line of the pattern, and then you can just trace it with a marker on your actual paper. It's not that difficult. Hopefully it won't take me a lot of time, but I won't really bore you with me just transferring the pattern of another piece of paper. Okay, so I finished transferring the pattern to a spare sheet of paper. Somehow I have managed to fit it all on one paper, I guess. The only thing I'm not doing from the original is I'm not doing the skirt lining because I'm planning to do a separate petticoat for dresses like that anyways, and I just don't have any material to make the lining from, so I'm skipping that step. Also, another change I made is everything I drawn out here is a size 36 European. The only thing that I made bigger is, I'm not sure, this is the top part, and I'm not actually sure how you call it in English. Those are the straps that are going to hold the skirt together, I guess. So I made those. I drawn both the 36 size and I think it's I written 38, but I think it's actually 40 because I'm not sure if this is going to fit me in a bust correctly, but I guess we'll figure it out. Zejść, zajęta. Firstly, I sewed the inside of the pocket to the front panel. I cut slits in the seam allowance to allow the curve to sit nicely. And then we have come to a point where my English is failing me really bad, so I'm gonna to try explain this in a very weird way, but what I did with the pockets is you can see this seam on the inside. So what this seam is here for is so the pocket doesn't try to go out, I guess. I don't know how to phrase it. Basically, this part of the inside is stitched to the seam allowance. I have no idea what it's called in English. I have no idea what it's called in Polish. I just know there's a name for this that I don't know. I can't explain it otherwise. So I hope this helps, I guess. Back to the sewing. The next thing I did is attaching the other pocket piece, this time the one that will be actually visible, to the lining of the pocket. Then I sewed together the front seam and the side seam. I finished the edges with a zigzag stitch. When I was sewing the back seam, I left a bit of it open for a zipper. Then I moved on to the waistband. I sewed all the parts forming the outer and inner waistband. Then I stiffened it with a fusible interlining. On second thought, it probably would be better if I did it before assembling the waistband. I sewed the outer waistband to the skirt, right sides together. At this point I finally started working on the zipper, and after a few tries I got it right. At this point I realized the pockets are a bit too shallow for my liking, so I made a new piece that I sewed to the bottom of the already existing pockets to make them deeper. I finished those raw edges with a felling stitch. I finished the raw edges on what in Polish we call bawet. I basted them right sides together to the waistband. Next I started working on the suspenders. I turned the pieces right sides together and sewed together the edges. Next I turned them inside out. After pressing them, I also basted them to the waistband. Next, I sewed the inner waistband right sides together to the outer waistband, this way capturing the suspenders and the bibs or bavets or whatever you call it between those two layers. I also sewed the inner waistband to the seam allowance like I did with the pockets. I finished the inner waistband by hand with a felling stitch, making sure that I catch the material of the seam allowance of the outer waistband, so the stitches won't be visible on the outside. I basted the hem by hand, then I finished it by machine. The last thing I had to do were the buttonholes. On the first try, I made them too small because I planned on using smaller buttons, but after I realized they don't really look good with this skirt, I made the buttonholes bigger.